Up about $2,300. I am streaming. I figured I'd stream. Might as well. Focused on pulling capital today, though. Is that the first sign of maybe reversing? Let's see. What the? Why does it move? There we go. Let's look at the daily, see where we're at on the daily. Yeah, awesome charts, TradingView. I love when you just automatically make it look great. All right, NDX is at the pivot point. Let's take one more off. I might reverse here. Maybe let it go a little bit more. Looking for a fade. Fade trade. It's a little early. I haven't got the first signal for a fade yet, so I'm not going to fade it. How's everybody morning going? Quite a few people up in here. I didn't get to attend last night. Sound like it went pretty cool. Whatever. I can't remember the person that drawing a blank. I'm so slow. This friggin' annoys the hell out of me. I apologize. I'm waiting for the first signal for when I'm going to short the NQ. Right now is actually where I would start looking for the signal, but I'm notorious for shorting too early. So I will wait for the first signal. But with shorts, you have to predict for the best entries. You got to predict where you think where you think the turn's gonna happen. And if I look at the chart here, we're getting close, especially if you look at the daily. I mean, we're over above the key level. Maybe, possibly, this is maybe right where the NDX would turn. I'll give it a little bit more. I'm looking for an exhaustion. What news do we have on deck? Anybody remember what news we have on deck? Nothing on deck really right away. Bunch of people speaking in the afternoon. Michael Barr, whoever the hell that is. International Trade Goods. I was looking at TradingView's news. Oh, here we go. We're getting to an exhaustion point, I think. So for those that are watching on TradingView, you want to hit the link below that says join my Discord. Those watching on YouTube, feel free to comment, ask questions. Those obviously in the den or watching on the trade room, feel free to. Why am I getting this? Oh, that's because I'm not connected to my account. That is looking for an exhaustion move here to fade the move. Not quite there. Getting close. Maybe wait for the first M9 takeout. All right. I reversed. Sell one more. Could be wrong. Could be a little early. The first tap of the M9. I'm a fader at heart, though, so most people know that. I'm probably still early. But I'll take profits quick if I'm in profit here on this move. For those watching on TradingView, it's a chart on the right that I'm trading the NQ. Chart on the left is the NDX. Those watching YouTube or oh, you know what? I didn't share my screen on YouTube like an idiot. Where is my for those on YouTube, I'm sharing the four chart setup. I knew I always forget something. All right, let's see. In 6 lots. Yes, the question was asked, what's the point of having those two charts on the open? Well, number one, you can just look here. If we look at the daily, the NQ hasn't quite reached the level of 15,411, but the NDX has reached the level on the NDX chart at 15,263. So different prints, same patterns. You're just trading the underlying. But oftentimes what you'll find is the NDX will hit a level that will have a reaction that you're looking for, where the NQ hasn't quite hit that level. So the NDX, when the cash market is open, I'm sometimes watching the NDX. Sometimes. You don't need to really watch it to be upfront. You can trade without it just as effectively. But in times like this where I'm looking for maybe a turn or a pivot and the cash market is open, then I'm going to watch the NDX. All right, well, we hit our first sell to hit the slow momentum. We got our first reaction. We'll see if we get down to the RDA, which is down to 15,334. We'll see. Might just hold up momentum wise, momentum long. Yeah. First reaction. See if we see one more impulse up. Like I said, I know I'm early. I know I'm fading early. I did wait for at least the first M9 touch. Probably going to impulse up a little bit more again. We'll see. Once again, if you don't have your fade card, you shouldn't be fading. Or wait for the confirmation. What is the confirmation? That's the turn on chart 2. Chart 2, then if you get a turn on chart 2, then you can potentially fade. But make sure that you have a target on one of them. Make sure you have a control on one of the other charts. You know, we're pretty far extended from the M9 on chart 3. Chart 4's got some room. What's up? I didn't hear that. Sorry, my volume was down.
Can you clarify the turn of chart 2?
Chart 2 is when, yep. When it rolls over in momentum, first you're gonna have a rollover in momentum, and then ideally you want then the momentum, or you want price to at least exceed the RDA. So that would be the first rollover of momentum and that's with the indicators. It's not with price. So the first thing is price is gonna recapture or sell below or get below the M24, and then you'll see a turn of momentum, and then kind of that first turn and test, that would be where I would consider a confirmation when the momentum's officially turned. Early fade here. Depending on what happens here on if it retests the momentum here, I might get out just because it's not, or I need to readjust my thinking as far as being a little bit more patient for a rollover to happen. Yep, next impulse up. So the question is it going to impulse up as much as the last candle? I'm in about 1/10 of position I wouldn't want to be in. So I started the position small. Let's look at the chart. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's $14. $14 puts us up to 268. All right. There we go. Keep touching the M9. Need to take it out though. Need to see you take it out. It's being very stubborn and rolling over. Yeah, as usual, I started early. Yeah, should have been more patient. Oh well. Where was that conversation at? Still no clue. Still no real, I'd say not clue. There we go. We got our first test of the M9. Want to close below the M9. I didn't wait for a close. I just waited for a touch. First close is usually a sign that it's going to at least test lower. But now it's holding the M9 pretty reliably. Pretty reliably. All right, look at this. Now I have to make a decision here. I guess if I do get to break even, do I get out? Do I stay with it if it gets there? If it gets there, it's got to pass the slow momentum once again. Started early. This is probably where I should have started right here. I should have waited for this little stall here. But no, I'm stubborn. I like to start early because I'm an idiot sometimes. Still need to get that out of my system. Maybe one of these days I will learn how to fade and be patient. Wait, is that? Nope. Look at that. Holding the momentum pretty well. Yeah. Started way too soon. Yeah, I'll look at BTC here. Sure. Once I get this trade managed, I'll look at BTC. We can take a look at BTC, Bitcoin. I did dump half of my, or not half. I started dumping BNB Binance yesterday. So I did start dumping my Binance coins. Let's see where we're at today. See if I'm going to dump more today. Yeah, I'll probably be dumping more today. Yeah, I was dumping them right around 255, 254. It's good pricing. So I want to reduce my holdings tremendously, or quite a bit in BNB. I don't know where they're going to end up, but I'm just dumping them to Bitcoin. Still staying in crypto, but just keeping it to Bitcoin. I just don't want to be exposed to BNB. Don't know where they're going. Don't know who their customer base is. So don't really know who Binance's customer base is. So at this point, I'm reducing my exposure to them. I have quite a bit of BNB, so it's good to transfer that over to Binance, or not to Binance, to Bitcoin. I mean, the pricing at Bitcoin isn't exactly what I'd like, but meaning that I would rather buy in a pullback, but I thought about going to fiat to BNB, BNB to fiat, or BNB to USDT or something, and then waiting for a pullback in Bitcoin. But I was like, screw it. I don't care. I mean, I care, but I want to have to just go through all that. Ooh, look at that. There's the exhaustion I should have waited for.
4,400 on the ES Rex. That's what that's at.
Oh, I know everybody's been talking about it. Everybody's all excited about it. Got their panties up in a bunch about it. At least that's what was on Twitter. I started way too early. I'm an idiot. 4,400 ES. Okay. Party over at the ES. Guess I should be paying attention to the ES more. Where's my ES? How come I don't have ES on? There it is. Look at that. Everybody's excited. Yeah, I was seeing Twitter or a lot of conversations on Twitter were really excited about that whole situation. I don't know why they're excited about 4,400. I mean, to me, the 4420 is more important than 4,400. And then also, yeah. $44.18 to me is more important. What are you doing, buddy? You good? You want to go to the bathroom? All right, give me 5 minutes. I'll take you out of the bathroom, all right? We'll go take care of business. All right, let's go back to the NQage. Let's look at the hour. Let's watch the hour. Power in the hour. I got protective stops there in the market in case it rips up more beyond where I want to take my losses. just being stubborn. It's not selling off. It might be going to the next phase. Might have to take a loss on this. So yeah, see, I was talking about earlier that I start too early. Once again, I can verbalize what I do wrong, but then I still do it, which is stupid. Don't trade that way. I mean, I can still trade myself out of this, but I'm just pissed that I actually got into this situation in the first place. But it is what it is. I get in more trouble fading than anything else. Now I'm just going to be patient, see if we get expansion on the next candle. Yep, taken out on my protective stop. I'm probably about break even today now. You little bastards. You're gonna make me. Let's get rid of this here. So where are we at here? Trade's almost managed. Let me look at Bitcoin here in a second. Because right now it's just a matter of just waiting for this to roll over or not. Friggin' Discord, man. The amount of noises that Discord makes is just friggin' annoying. There's our first sign of even some life to the short side. Go back to the 5 minute. I don't know why. I'll make some of it up back here, I think. See if we take some profit at the RDA test. I really shouldn't have let that protective stop get hit, but you know. Hey, buddy, come on. Come down here. I'm talking Rex. The real Rex. Rex, the dog, the actual dog. All right. Let's go take a quick look at Bitcoin, at least for those on TradingView. We're below 35K. The daily's testing the fast momentum, getting an early RSI signal, possibly. Testing the weekly open. Weekly open holds, and that's a positive sign. Obviously, where's our weekly open? Come our weekly open. Oh, we're below the weekly open. So I don't know what I was talking about. That's the previous week. Never mind. Below the weekly open, we are momentum short. Let's see what the 30 tells us. 30 is momentum short, switched over. We've got a previous week open that it's testing right now at 34,557 or so. So that zone, obviously, we look at the 4-hour to see if our pattern has been broken. Our pattern hasn't been broken. We're still in a flag pattern. So that flag pattern's still intact. We got an RDA test here possibly at 34,000 almost evenly. 3411, 34,100, I mean. So to me, it's well within the realm of price action to come down, hit the RDA, and then find support. But you'd want the RDA up here a little bit higher to keep this flag pattern intact. Because right now, on the 4-hour, we still have a flag pattern. I mean, it's still a flag pattern. This whole thing's just a flag pattern. Similar to what we saw a couple weeks ago. If you go back a couple weeks ago and you look back and you see what were the flag patterns that were rising, where are they at? So similar to like, that's not exactly the flag pattern. I'm looking for them. Here is what we were seeing a couple weeks ago. Is we were seeing flag patterns like this here, and then Thursday or Friday, not necessarily Sunday, but Thursday or Friday it would rip up. So that flag pattern's still intact right now on Bitcoin. So till I see that flag pattern fail, it's still intact. So I'm still looking at the long side. I'm still long bias. Plus most of the chart, well, not all the charts, they're starting to turn over, but right now the first area of interest for me is right here, right around 34,000, 34.1 to see what the reaction happens there. All right, we'll go back to the trading now. So now we have a switch over here on chart 2. You have your early switch over. It's pretty premature because it's still trying to hold on, but you do have a switch over momentum there. So this would be the point where I should have waited for. And I'll be taking some profit on this trade here, right in this zone right here. That's the RDA on chart 2. We use chart 1 as our control. We have additional reaction zone right here. Those are our 2 reaction zones used in our control charts, chart 2 and chart 2, not the control, but chart. That's a fast momentum check on chart 1, the bottom profit zone if it gets there. Price does get there, we'll see. Anybody have any questions in the trade room or anywhere else I can answer here? We're kind of slowing down here or not slowing down, but all right, first profit was taken on that short. And then I'll put in trailing stops for the rest just so I don't take a loss. I might re-enter short if I do get taken out on those trailing stops, but we'll see. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do fixed stops. See, it might be taken out. But fixed stops in there. Usually I do trailing stops, but say this all the time. It should be called waiting, not trading, because that's basically what you're doing all the time. You're just waiting for the trade to unfold or waiting for your position to get picked up, waiting for your profit target to get hit. You're really not trading, you're just waiting, sitting around and waiting. Probably going to get knocked out of here and then I have to re-enter. I think next week, as I get back into trading, I'll be trading my full 4 different tickers. Right now, I'm just okay with just trading the NQ, easing myself back into getting into trading mode.
Stop filled.
Knocked out. I didn't even tag the RDA, and it still held up pretty strong. Momentum, long move here. JP speaks tomorrow at 9:15. Might be worth trading around that time. Might be some good volatility, depending on what the dude says.
Order filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order filled.
Re-enter here if I get picked up top. Or I'll enter big if it looks like it's gonna rip. Since I'm sitting here watching the freaking charts. which is something, unless you need the chart time, I don't recommend you do. After about a year of chart time, I don't think you need any more chart time. Maybe a year and a half. It's all individual, though. If you think you need it, you think you need it.
Order filled.
All right, got picked up.
Order filled. Order filled.
Now here's someone predicting a 20% Bitcoin decline. Let's see if they're even on target. 20%. Let's see. Got the RDA down here on the daily. Let's see where that's at. I don't know about a 20%, but I could see an 8%, 10% decline. $20 decline here on the Bitcoin would put it right down to 27.5, which, I mean, I guess, you know, if you're looking at that this value channel here, you could support that, meaning that you got a value channel here, rough value channel here. I didn't even try to draw it that way, but that's right at the center of the value channel there. So what you want to see is, if it comes down there, you want to see it hold that and then continue to break up and hold the key levels, or at a minimum hit 25.6 and then come up and quickly recapture 28.
Order filled.
So I could see that. I could see a 20% decline as well. Fits the model where things are at. Come back and test that value channel. Not saying that I see it totally in the cards, but I got picked up for another 3 lots there. I'm waiting for chart 1 as my control. You know, target just below 370, 366 or so. Maybe the opening range high of 345. Could be wrong. If it hits the RDA, I'll take some off here. So right around this range here. Go a little bit lower than that. So for those that say that I fight against the system, I actually did write up right up this trade. I took profit along the way where I only had 2 lots up. I didn't quite. Once again, though, I did start early. I started my fade way too early, but it's not like I wasn't trading with the system. I started the stream, started everything saying, hey, trade the system, trade with the momentum, trade with the bias. So I was not fighting the system today, at least early on. It's being very stubborn about breaking these key levels here on every level that it's hitting. Just doesn't want to give a pullback and give people, I don't know what it is, what the answer is. Do I have the alpha trade room still open to people in public? I think I do. Let's remove that. Let's remove public people so everyone can view the channel. Everyone can connect. Let's remove these people. Let's remove everyone. Everyone cannot connect to the trade channel anymore. And let's go to permissions and let's remove everybody else except alphas. Just alphas can be up in here. Sorry for those that got kicked or that I was about to get kicked. I don't know if it kicks you off, but I noticed there's some people in here that aren't alphas. So I'm going to change the permissions on this. Only allow alphas. Ah, come on. I don't got patience for you today. I do have appointments and stuff going on here in a little bit, so I will be taking off. Any questions? Anybody have any questions I can answer? Anything about trading, about the system, about anything? I'm sitting here being utterly bored watching this trade unfold. You could listen to me read the crypto news. Use this indicator to spot a bull market. Okay.
The bull.
Whatever. How an Estonian bake founder lost 470 million in Ethereum. Why would I care? 9 tips for a food business considering blockchain for its supply chain. BlackRock ETF may kill Bitcoin. I'm curious what's going to happen here with this FTX thing. They're going to screw it all up like they usually do. It's pretty obvious what needs to happen, but they're going to screw it up. Federal Reserve Michael Barr calls for a strong federal framework for stable coins. All right, we hit the RDA. Do I take some profit? Nah, I'll just sit on it. Let it go a little bit further. Solana set to take market share away from Cardano, according to a Bloomberg crypto analysis. Okay. Whatever. I mean, that might be true, but I don't think Bloomberg crypto analysis, I don't think I would put too much stock into. Harsh reaction from Binance CEO CZ to economists anti-Bitcoin. We can look at the underlying. I should look at some of the underlying. We should look and see what's Apple doing and stuff like that. So let's go look at that stuff. Tesla is trying to maintain that bottom, trying to recapture momentum and bias. Apple is at a key reaction zone, has recaptured momentum and bias. Like I said last week, it's going to the next phase. It's obvious. It's going up to 200. It's obvious. Easy trade there. Meta, same type of thing. It's going up. NVIDIA, this one was a little bit harder to call because it was recapturing momentum and bias, but you did get an opportunity to, if you bought back here to 400, pretty great profit there up to 460. So I didn't buy in. I was waiting for this gap fill here. So then I will considering adding to my position. Coin has not hit, is at the top. You know, my buy zone was still back here. So if it gets down here, maybe retest it again, I'll consider getting back into coin. Google's recapturing bias and momentum. It's still bias and momentum short. So it's unsure whether or not it's going to turn and roll over here. Given that the larger market is seeing capital flow into it, I would assume that it's going to continue up. Amazon's on a tear. We already outlined where it's going. It's pretty obvious where it's going. We've got our two key levels up here. If it breaks through this, it's going to the 170 level. If we go over to the trade, it's about to hit my first profit zone here. We'll see. Which is chart 1 is my control. Sitting the RDA, might hold that RDA. If he goes up a little bit higher, I'll call the bluff and add to my position. I want to see it go up to 380. Is that 380? Yeah. 380, I'll call the bluff.
Order filled.
Let's look at Microsoft. Microsoft did what we expected once it recaptured momentum and bias. Look, all these things are pretty much, they were easy to call back when they recaptured momentum and bias. Now the next zone is, I think, is at the all-time high on Microsoft. Yeah. So I did an idea, or at least I predicted you can see this zone out here. It's been on my chart for months, the 440 to 460 zone. That's where I predicted Microsoft is going. So I've been trading accordingly to that it will be an all-time high. That was my prediction of the actual expansion zone and where Microsoft's going. You know, this isn't trade advice. I do trade equities as well. Takes me about 10 to 15, I don't know, maybe about a minute to make my decisions on my equity trades. Because I'm trading the same system I've been trading for years. It doesn't change. I trade all markets, all time frames with it. I know I sound bored. But, you know, at this point in time, I've been trading the same system for years. It's almost time to cash in the chips, maybe. I don't know. Depends on how these scans in these next couple of days go here with what my health is going through. Whether or not I'm going to cash in my chips and just kind of coast out from here. Haven't really decided yet. You little bastard. I called your bluff and you want to continue going up. Maybe it's going to hit. Maybe that's the M9 test we're going to get. Because if it continues up, that's going to look like it hit the M9. It's going to look like the test. Maybe I just pull my capital. Call it a day. That's all I'm going to get for the fade. We'll see. Utterly bored trading this though. All right, let's look and see if we can find other things to look at that would pique my interest. No one else? Anybody else have questions? You have questions, I'll answer the questions or go through some stuff. But if you don't have questions, that's fine. Will Dogecoin keep rising? Has Doge been rising? I don't know. Let's check it out. Doge. I don't know about rising. Yeah, thanks. TradingView can put these little animation and these little dogs and stuff on the chart, but they can't add tick charts. Good job, TradingView. You know, awesome job. You can add all these other things, but you just can't add the most, probably what would make your platform awesome, which would be tick charts. All right, well, the 4-day RDA has not been recaptured on the Dogecoin. Once that does happen, it could maybe take off. It could get pretty feisty. All right, we're up $3,000 hitting the RDA, bouncing off the RDA again. Binance launches invite-only messenger app to poor reviews so far. Oh, okay. Cardano might risk 12% decline if this signal is validated. I'm reading, for those that don't maybe know, there's a site that I like called Crypto Panic. I kind of like this site. I'll share it in the chat if people want to see what it is. Here's the crypto site I'm reading off of. Crypto Panic. Crypto Panic. That's the site. It's a good aggregator of crypto news, I find. I didn't mute everybody in the room, did I? Or just no one talking today? It's pretty quiet today.
No, we can hear you. Rex, is there any way possible to make the numbers on your charts appear a little bigger or kind of go full screen? Because I'm at full screen and I can barely see it. Also, I'm streaming on a 60, almost 70-inch screen on TV, and I cannot see it. TV numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm full screen, but I'm on a 4K monitor, so that's probably the problem.
Oh.
So what I forget what I can do is I can go to, I have a monitor that's the percentage or whatever, the size is higher. I forget I could move my 4-chart setup to that. So I am working on possibly setting up just a pure streaming PC that would be set up just for streaming. So then I don't have to worry about, because I'm up in my other machine today. So if I come up with a pure streaming machine, then the resolution can be set perfectly and I don't have to mess with it on 2 individual machines. So this machine, for instance, I have 3 4K monitors. So even I have a problem seeing some of the numbers. So I do need to raise the percentage of them. So I apologize. But if you have the 4-chart layout, it should look somewhat the same. So you should be able to correlate it back, hopefully. You know.
Oh yeah, that's no problem.
But yeah, I will. I forget about that. I forget I have one monitor on here that so when I, like on TradingView, the stream is much easier to see because that monitor resolution I bump up. I should just add another monitor to this setup that I don't even see, or that I don't even look at. Yeah, that's probably what I could do too. I could add like a 1080p monitor. Yeah, I should do that. But then, yeah, I don't know. Ah, you little bastard. You're not selling off.
Order filled.
I got out at about $1,000 profit because this little stupid ass NQ doesn't want to sell off. Sat here and looking at this trade for the last 30 minutes. Didn't work out. That's trading. I'm still looking to go short, but you know, it looks like it's going to go up. So we'll short the next impulse up. So I'm in nothing right now, waiting for the next impulse up, waiting for it to take out the level of C3, and then rip up. Suppose I can do a participation trade.
Order filled.
Might as well participate in the move up, you little bastard. Now it's probably going to sell off now that I just did a participation trade. Ah, it's close. It's close to ripping, or it's close to maybe rolling over. Yeah, it's hard to
Order
call.
filled.
It's hard to call here. Yeah, it's hard to call. I'm gonna at least buy one here
Order filled.
because I want to watch it. You know, sometimes I do that. Just I know it's odd. I'll just buy a position. That way I can just watch how it fluctuates around my position. And then, because I'm looking to go short here, but I'm also expecting maybe another impulse up. But if I can just glance at it here and there, I can get a feel for how it's moving. If that makes sense. That's when I'm, you know, like I said, obviously sitting in front of the charts here. Like I have the charts in front of me. When I'm streaming, I really can't not watch the charts. I don't really have a choice because they're all in front of me and all my other windows are taken up with other stuff. And I do want to be here for questions, conversations, even though no one's saying anything today. Everybody's quiet. Everybody's in their own, got their own stuff going on.
Rex, this is Jedi. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. So I'm watching C2, and I see a channel. So my bottom of the channel is roughly at 373.25,
Mhm.
and top of the channel is our high 395. So I'm thinking that if the price gets to 395, starts pushing up, and the candle closes above it, it's going to continue pushing up. So we'll try to buy it. If the candle closes below 373.00 roughly, below it, then I'm going short. Would that be kind of a correct analysis, expectation, or would you do it differently, something here at this moment?
I mean, I predict you'd be a little bit more predictive, you know, because then if that's the case, then you have to like define your downside targets, right?
Right.
So if those are your trigger points, then what's your downside targets? And, you know, could be the opening range high, which is aligning with the M24. So, you know, in this type of range where it just kind of comes up here and it just kind of gets lazy, it usually has one more impulse up. Usually. And then it fiercely makes a rip down. Usually. That's what I've noticed over the years. So I think having those ranges, but are you trading with those ranges, or are those like, okay, once those hit, then I'm gonna get in?
It's more for me strong level to strong level.
Oh, okay.
Right now it's going for the strong level at 395.
Yeah.
To me, it's a very strong level. So if bridges starts pushing up, it most likely continues to push up. So I'm still holding a position long from 391 spot 50.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think that's a good way to read it. You're reading it level to level, so I would say that's good, especially if you're still in a position. You know, me, where I'm not in a position, I'm looking to trade, then I'm looking at it differently, right? But I mean, you just saw now 395 is being tested. It gets retested, holds, it's probably going to impulse up, and it could impulse up all the way up to like 425, 430. So that would be what I'd be looking for. I'd be looking, one thing you can do with those ranges, which I'm, is kind of trading 101, is take that range and then measure it up and use that as your impulse, as your next target area. So take that range and then use that percentage or that amount, and then just tack on top of that. And then that's kind of that would be the next impulse up. Does that make sense?
Yes. Also, I'm looking at the daily and I see 411 spot 50 level.
Yeah.
So kind of a more closer, most immediate level upward.
Yeah, and I was more playing the index level, the NDX level here for that early fade, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 green candles in a row. So I was saying, well, it's got to at least do some pullback, and it did. I mean, it did some pullback here to the M9, but it might just be pulling back to the M9 the rest of the day. You know what I mean? It might literally just do that. So,
and we're on the third outer band from RDA, so it's pretty high.
Yeah, and it's pretty far extended on C3, but it could just play around in this little tight zone from 387 or so, or 390, all the way up to like 430 for a while before it rolls over. I mean, that's what it seems to be doing. I mean, it hasn't lost the RDA at all on chart 2. And as I was saying before with the M9 on chart 1, the more that it goes up, the more that it's going to look like it actually tagged that, but it didn't really tag it, But the more that it stays long, the more that it's going to make it more in hindsight, it's going to look like it actually perfectly tagged it. So those are the projections that I would be doing, in addition to what you're doing. I think that's a good. The levels are good. I think those are perfect.
Rex, I'm playing ES, and if you just switch to that on the 4 chart, you'll see that it tried to battle the M9 on C1. It never really closed below, and on C4, it was tagging the M24, but never got below, and it just that's what gave me the confidence to kind of hold my long. I think on the ES in particular, it came down and tested those levels, whereas on NDX doesn't look like it did.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't have an ES chart. I don't think set up easily. Yeah, I don't have an ES chart. Otherwise, I'd switch over to ES.
I'll try to take a picture. Which chat is best to put it in?
Oh, you can put it in the Trade Room Alpha one,
yeah, I'll take a snapshot so you can see what I'm talking about.
Or even the Den. I mean, today it's been one of those where I start a fade trade early, and the market just does not have any interest on doing any type of sell-off. It has a higher target in mind. So, not I'm waiting for that higher target to hit. Maybe I'll be around for it. I'm going to have to jet here in a few minutes, but holy crap, it's already half after. Okay, yeah, I have to jet here in a few minutes, but yeah, it's just kind of frustrating. Especially when I didn't take the long trade because I was focused on the fade trade.
It was hard to hold because I know you were talking fade, and it was not easy to hold, but it never broke through those MAs. So
No, awesome. That's good to hear. I like to hear that. I like to hear when people actually disagree with me and hold through something because they're reading the market and they're reading the chart. That actually, I'd like to hear that more than trading with me because as you can see, I'm infallible.
I just posted it in the Alpha Den.
Sweet.
Yeah, M24, just beautiful tails, tagging it, and then it just rode the M9 on C1. So yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, that's a prime example of just reading it, no close below it, no reason to get out, and that's a perfect example of kind of reading the system correctly, and not trying to project, it's so far extended. Like I
Right.
was thinking, it's gotta pull back here, or it's gonna, which I mean, I'm right more than I'm not right on those things sometimes, but sometimes I do get
Yeah.
to these zones where just reading the chart, I mean, it never once pulled back and really solidly, I mean, it didn't get below the RDA. It
Yeah.
didn't really solidly close below momentum. And this is, I mean, even this 4 chart setup in the ES is a prime example. Didn't really solidly give you any clear answers that, hey, it's going to sell off.
I just find too, I mean, after this kind of a run to get to that level, 44, for just touch it once, it's pretty unlikely to, right?
Yeah.
And unless, I find, and you can tell me if you've noticed this too, unless on that first kind of touch it just rips, you can see the run on stops, and then you can just see it totally, just reverse, right? And that's when you kind of know that, okay, that this is probably going to be a one touch, and we just ripped down. But it was pretty orderly, like in terms of how it kind of hit it the first time. Yeah, it rolled over, flagging, right? But like, is it really not going to get back up there and retest it again? It's I just find with these psychological levels, often you get that, at least that retest, and then often too that breakthrough. Like we'll see right now, we might even just continue higher here.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, that's a good way to put it. I usually look at the first test as the best. Look for at least some first test reaction, and we barely got any of that here, and it took a while for it to roll over. So these days where it does just, or at least in the morning, or these actually these days can be hard to trade sometimes the full day, because what happens is that you get into this rhythm of how the market's behaving psychologically in the morning, and then in the afternoon there might be a change in psychology, and you don't pick up on it because you sat through kind of this psychology of the morning.
Yeah.
That's that's something that I had to ease out of my trading, because you get kind of stuck on how the market was moving in the morning, and then for whatever reason people come back from lunch and there's a whole new outlook, or no more news or something else hit, right? And then the psychology of the afternoon is completely different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's one trap that I used to fall into a lot, quite a bit actually.
Yeah, I've got hit so many times because this is a typical example where super bullish all day. You've had your first kind of M9 test on C1, and so you're thinking, okay, comes back down, go long, right? And then if it breaks that, it's like, okay, I got protection at the M24, maybe I'll add there. And then it just rips through that too. And then it rips through the RDA. And all of a sudden, before you know it, right? Like you said, that psychology totally flips. And that's where I've gotten just crushed at times. And it's frustrating because I feel like I'm trying to play the system. I'm watching these levels and I'm thinking they'll hold. But like you said, I think it's that psychology flip that I'm not picking up on, to recognize that actually, you know what, those are going to break, right? And so that's where I've personally gotten stuck a lot and taken some hits. And I don't know if you have any suggestions on that, other than, you know, clues on how to pick up when that psychology flips. But that's where I've taken some pain.
Yeah, I think the main thing is to reckon. So one thing I will say is Black shared that we're at a daily level on the NQ, and that's what I was talking about. See, I was playing this NDX level at 267, 265. So the NDX level on the daily is at 265. That's the NDX level. But the NQ level on the daily is 407. And so I was playing the NDX level, but it looks like, and so I will be shorting here shortly as it gets closer to 406, 405, because that is the level on the NQ. But I think the important thing is that what I found that helps me in that is I've divided the day into kind of zones of psychology. And I've found it's helped me. In addition to doing exactly what you did, which is just read the indicators of the system and how it's supposed to be read, that will get you far along instead of trying to put your thinking on top of it. I mean, sometimes it's hard to read. So then obviously you shouldn't be in when it's hard to read. But I find that, you know, you have the beginning session in the morning, you have kind of the mid session, and then you have the lunch, and then you have the first pivot in the afternoon and the second pivot in the afternoon. And I've just found it very helpful, at least in my trading, to realize that those are the different psychological segments of the market. It kind of prepares me to think, oh, yeah, it could come down. And like right now, we're well above the opening range high. Well, you know, if you carry over how it's been really maintaining the momentum long, you're not gonna say, oh well, it's not gonna hit the opening range high, or it's not gonna hit the RDA on chart one. I mean, the RDA on chart one's all the way down to 318. That's a pretty big move. But if you're not open to kind of maybe a change in psychology based on maybe a change in time, or watching chart two closely, then you're not open to kind of some of those bigger moves. And then you're sitting on it, or being open to where is it going. So if it's going to pull back big here, where is it going to go? You know, you've got obviously the M24, you got the RDA on chart one. Those would be the big things I'd be watching for. You know, and part of here is now we just got the first sell off of that 405 level.
Yeah.
And now the question is, did I miss the move? You know, did I miss the fade? Or does it, because now it's doing an M9 test now, or does it have, you know, more to go?
Yeah.
I think it has more to go, so I'm going to short. But does that
That's helpful.
help?
No, you know, I think the biggest thing is, like you said, breaking the day up into segments, right? Like I find usually there's that, you know, initial move in the morning. You often get a mid-morning reversal, like you said. You get the noon hour kind of doldrums, right, where not much is happening, and then you got like an afternoon move, right? And to your point, it can be a continuation of whatever that momentum was, or it could be a psychology kind of flip. And then, you know, often I think sometimes, well, not often, but I think, you know, being mindful also that you can see those afternoon snapbacks or pullbacks as well, right? Like I think it was Friday, right? Friday was a perfect example, right? Really, really bullish for the most part, and then, you know, that kind of mid-afternoon, you know, later afternoon, just snapback or pullback, and it just went down. At least the EFs did about 20 points, right, after, you know, really, really bullish morning, right? So I like that. I think I need to continue to remind myself about the segments piece, because I think that's bang on, and just almost resetting, you know, my thinking based on, you know, a segment potentially resetting, like a segment of the trading day, right? And maybe that'll help. But yeah, I just, you know, I've been stung a couple times on just blowing through M9, blowing through, you know, M24, blowing through RDA. It's just like, what happened here, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll try to apply that segment, mentality, and maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll help me kind of better identify my gift.
Yeah. And the key is if you see that it works. I mean, if if anything in the system or that you're adopting or that I teach, you just don't see work. You just don't see like as helpful, you should ditch it. So don't, that's the other thing I think. New traders or traders, I think, don't adopt quick enough is that even paradigms from what you learn from any guru or any thinking, if you don't see it working or you don't see it unfolding or it doesn't provide you enough edge, then you should just ditch it because you only have a certain amount of room in your head for edge. And you should only be keeping the stuff in your head or in your trade system for edge that actually makes a difference to your trading that you see unfold,
No, I think that makes sense. And if you're okay with it, maybe next time I do see an example like that, I'll fire it your way or to the group and just ask for some of your insights on what could I or we might have picked up on, I guess identifying that no, momentum is not going to hold and this is going to rip through, right? And maybe it's as simple as, for example, we're at this extended level, big psychological level, 4,400, for example, in the ES. And that's kind of added evidence, if you will, from just a level perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you're going to get a much bigger reaction, right? Instead of it just kind of, nudging higher, right? Maybe that's part of it too. Is where are you from a major level standpoint, strong level standpoint? But if you're up for it, I'd love to send you, the next time I come across it and I, somehow make a mess of it, I'd love to send it your way to add some commentary.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
But now, like here, I missed the good part of where the short should have been started. I'm shorting now with an expectation of probably an RDA hit or an opening range low. So on chart 4. But a lot of this is, it's good that I'm repeating myself because that means the things that we're trading that is in the system really isn't changing often. So I do feel like I repeat myself often, but I find that good. I find that comforting now because that means that, okay, well, we baselined kind of the system. So now we have an alpha candle, for instance, on chart 1 that took out the M9. And now to me, that's the biggest, or that's the biggest thing we can trade against is that alpha candle and what the other charts are telling us.
And would you, for example, be looking to add or enter at like 50% of that?
Yeah. That's where I'm looking. So you'll see my positions that I have are my position because I got started late, but I'm calling the bluff on a rise up, and I'll call a bluff probably a rise up.
I see it now.
Yeah.
I zoomed in. I can see it now. Yeah, got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and sorry if it was my chatting that caused you to miss that.
Oh no, it was my fault for not actually picking up that we were at the daily level. So actually, the other trader that shared in the room that we were at 50% or that we were at a key level on the daily, I should have picked up way sooner because then I would have been shorting as we were coming up to. Because I ordinarily I would have been shorting up to 406 level. It almost perfectly tagged it. And if you go back and look at the daily chart on the NQ, you'll see that that's the daily level, or that's that key level. So that's kind of where it was going. I should have, when the NDX didn't react at the level on the NDX, I should have immediately said, okay, well, what's the next level on the NQ that I need to be watching? And I just got into doing other things and didn't properly plan ahead for the fade.
And so maybe I'd love to pressure test this for a minute, actually, the fade, to your point, right? Because now granted, I'm looking at the ES, but definitely follows obviously the NQ very, very closely. And so this is your first kind of M24 touch on C1,
Mhm.
right? And when I'm thinking in the context of, all right, trade with bias, trade with momentum, granted, huge alpha candles. So is that supposed to be the first flag to say, hey, you might not want to kind of, look long at this M24 touch because the alpha is just so significant? Like that's part of what I have trouble balancing at times as well is, in theory, I feel like first M24 touch, with this momentum, with this bias, this could be a good long. I think the cons are, alpha level, right? The fact that you're at this 44. And so, should the alpha on the level kind of trump the fact that this is an M24 touch? Like, can you maybe, shed some light on just how to maybe kind of rationalize that decision?
Well, I'm also rationalizing that the opening range high didn't get tagged, and that's so close to the M24. So
Okay.
that's one of the reasons why I'm still short and I'm looking to go short. Also, this is
Okay.
the first touch of that level on the daily. So I expect a
Yeah.
little bit bigger reaction. But you might look back and might say that, yeah, that was the first touch of the M24 long,
Yeah.
momentum long, and bias long. That should have been the trade. So I do
Right.
get myself in trouble sometimes because I actually
Right.
I like to fade more than I like to momentum. But
Yeah.
I do put high precedence in that alpha that it took out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Right.
10 candles, and it
Right.
closed below the level. So right now I'm watching chart 2 pretty closely. If chart
Yeah.
2 switches back over to momentum and bias long, then I'll
Yeah.
have to dump this position. But as long
Okay,
as
that's really helpful. Yeah, that's a really helpful insight.
as long as it doesn't, as long as it kind of stays in this kind of messy state here, I'll continue to call the bluff on the rise up because of that alpha candle. So that's because I still think that from looking at the charts, I can make a reason that there's lower levels that are acting as magnets stronger than just that first M24 test. Because you can say that that M24 test has done its job, meaning that we got the
Right.
reaction. Now
Right.
it's a matter is it going to continue to roll over?
And I think the insight that you mentioned, which is interesting and helpful, is okay. Closely follow C2. And this is where I also get into a situation where I get stuck because, for example, right now I've got a limit order at about 50% of that alpha candle in C1, right? But if it gets up there, right, like there's probably a high likelihood that you get a Momo changeover on C2. I would imagine, right? Because at least on the ES, it's about 3 or 4 points from here. To get up there, it's probably going to have to cross. And so, if it's like kind of just even barely momentum long, should I negate the thinking of holding my order at the 50% because of that?
Yeah, you're thinking in the right way, meaning that you're predicting kind of like what it's going to look like. I couldn't answer because that's situational to where it's at, right? So,
Right.
um, but I mean, so that's where I mean, as far as you're talking about holding your long, right?
No, holding my order to go short
Oh.
at 50%. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
So,
right now, what do we have on the table? If you look at it, if the most important level right now that exists to me on the chart is for the NQ anyways, is at 392. And that's that alpha candles open where we do have an RSI. It took out all those candles. It took out the M9. So to me, a close above that negates or would say that, hey, that candle's invalidated. That candle is no longer valid. So no more calling the bluff.
okay.
Up until that point, I think it's fair game to say that I can play the fade, but I do get more and more concerned the more that the momentum and bias support continues to hold up because all the charts are momentum long and bias long, right? So
Right.
you're really arguing with all the charts at this point in time, and that's where it's like, shoot, I should have just not been an idiot, not tried to fade the market, and not tried to, not see the fade, and actually just traded the momentum. So
Right.
I get myself in trouble sometimes on these things because of exactly this situation right now, which is, dude, why don't you just trade what the market's telling you instead of like
Right.
trying to like get that big sell-off move that
Right.
maybe adds dopamine. I think it's still dopamine or whatever that I get. So
Yeah.
I could talk about both the long and short side of this trade without talking out of both sides of my mouth because it's both valid. So because
Yeah.
I've seen both these trades unfold and it might unfold here in my favor. But so there's literally two ways to look at the situation right now, which is the long situation, which is just trading the system. You got an M24 test, awesome entry. You're probably taking profits along the way here. If you're trying, at least you took a third off, hopefully. But then I could still then talk about this exact setup in a fade perspective of what I'm doing.
Right.
And I don't think I'm not detracting from either one of those trade types. Is that clear as far as like how it could be
Yeah.
seen as two sides?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I just find at times I do try to plan my trades. To your point, I try not to like be too stuck to the charts. And for example, putting that order to sell at 50% of that alpha, but not necessarily being able to follow whether or not on C2 there's been a momentum changeover back to the long side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that kind of at times can get me tripped up, right? Like even now, for example, so on the ES, it did like the M9 did cross over the M24, albeit not all that decisively. It got to that level, but because it crossed over, I kind of shied away and I moved my order up. I probably would have got filled. I didn't because I saw that little crossover. But these are the nuances I find where at times. Like I find myself second guessing, and I imagine there's others that might as well. And so this dialogue is helping me anyways.
Yeah, and it's
Thank
a key example. I mean, where the trade's working out so far in my favor because of, like I said, if this chart didn't have the opening range high where it did, I don't necessarily know if I would be this aggressive with fading it, just because there wouldn't be another high probability target that the market uses that I would
Right.
that I could hang my hat on, because I wouldn't have enough confidence that the RDA would be the target. But because the M24 is so close to the opening range high, I have a little bit more, or I'm putting my hat on a little bit more. Hey, it's going to hit the opening range high at a minimum, and to be a good steward here, I probably should take profit here when it hits the M24 again, this level. So I'll probably,
Right.
so if I get an opportunity here, I might just create a stair step pattern here. But you'll see here, basically that's when I say calling the bluff, that's what I did on basically that push up above on chart 2. You'll see that it came up and it did go to about 50% of that previous alpha. That's me just calling the bluff that it's not going to close up there.
Right. Yeah. And I got a little bit edgy and moved my order up a bit more and so I didn't get filled. But look, this dialogue has been very helpful. Thank you. And I apologize to others.
Oh, no.
Hopefully they got value out of it as well. But these are the types of situations where, I find at times I can second guess myself. Sometimes I nail it, I'm on point, but other times it's like, then you run the risk of getting into this situation, you start, reversing and all this nonsense, right? I'm trying to really get away from all that. But like you said, at times you can have a pretty strong case to go either way, right? Either long or short.
Yep.
And it's trying to kind of piece together all the different clues to see which one might have more weight, right?
Well,
I did follow. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, and we just had that example right there of both ways, and you could have traded both ways successfully. I think part of it too is somewhat conviction, but not too much conviction that you're arguing too much with the chart. So there's got to be a solid reason on both sides. So the solid reason on the long side is the first M24 chest. Okay.
Right.
The solid reason on my side was what we've just been talking about.
Yep, yep, which makes a lot of sense as well, and I totally get that.
I
All
did.
right, well, look, thanks for talking that through.
Yeah. And don't worry. I mean, anytime, speak up, ask questions, you know, so no problem there at all.
Rex, I don't need to run. I got just hopefully two quick items.
Sure.
Number one, simply because I can't change the code, it appears as though in TradingView, the T levels indicator is having a daylight savings time issue, and it's an hour off.
I noticed that. I apologize. I'll be talking to the person that developed it with me to see how we can fix that.
I figured you had some developer that might be able to correct that. I just want to make sure you knew about that. And secondly, I've heard this many times, and if you don't have time to explain it now, that's fine. We can get into it another time. When you say the first test is the best, or that type of thing, can you just briefly explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. So the first test is the best. If we go to the daily, well, since you're watching if you're not watching on TradingView,
I am. I'm
Oh.
watching your stream.
Yeah. So on TradingView, if we look at the daily, so it didn't quite tag that level of 15,408, but it got close enough within, all these levels are, ranges. So that's what I mean by first test. That was the first test of this level since it was created. So that's the first test is the best, meaning that generally the first test is the best reaction you're going to get generally. Same with if you look on the 5-minute on here, we have a pullback to the M24 and then we have a reaction up. That would be a first test. That would be the best reaction that we're going to get. And we see here that it's actually losing that. So the next first test is the best, is now the RDA. So now we would be watching the RDA. Now, because the RDA is so close to the VWAP, we'd be maybe looking for an overshoot of the VWAP. But then that first test is typically the best. It's not always the case, like everything else in trading, but
Sure, no absolutes.
Yeah, generally, I try to participate in the first test. If it is kind of a scary trade to make, because oftentimes that first test of the RDA, chart 2's in momentum short, it's selling off, and you got to have confidence that, hey, there's going to be a reaction here. Now, there isn't always, but you got to have some kind of, confidence in watching day after day or week after week the RDA reacting. You can wait for confirmation on chart 2. So for instance, if the first test of the best on the RDA check here, it comes down, and then what you're waiting for on chart 2 is for it to stop, create a level, and then you can trade the levels, the bottom levels, as it tries to find support. That would be a way, that would be how you trade the first test as the best. Or does that like I said, it's a general rule. It's one of those general rules that you might even, sometimes the second best goes up there, touches it, and rolls over. And then it sells off much more than, but generally that first test is generally a fiercer reaction than the second test.
Okay.
When it gets to the second test, like it is right now, see that first test came up and it had a pretty, it touched the M24 and it had, it rejected, caused a wick, and then caused 2 more green candles. And now this second test here, you'll see it's stalling here. It's not having the same type of fierce reaction. So that's this is a prime example of kind of the first test is the best philosophy. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I do have to jet. I just realized I'm going to be late, or I'm at risk of being late because I got into trading and having fun pulling capital from the market finally for a trade that was actually working out in my favor. Any other questions before I jet? Any other? Once again, if you're watching on YouTube or TradingView, you want to click the link that says join my Discord. Join the Discord. Join us there. Still open to the public. I will probably be shutting it down here in a couple of weeks here as we kind of transition to focusing on the alphas. All right. Any other questions? Anybody else? I'm going to put in trailing stops here and just let it trail out.
Just a big thank you, Rex. Appreciate you, answering all the questions and everything. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for, and I probably won't be back this afternoon, but I do plan to be back tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So I should be back. What is today? Wednesday or Thursday? Wait.
I think it's still Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. Okay. Shoot. I gained a whole day. I thought it was Wednesday. Awesome. I love when that happens.
Bonus.
Yeah. Bonus day. So sweet. But yeah, JP talks tomorrow. So hopefully he says some saucy things that gets the market volatile so we can actually get some movement. So I know that's on deck in the morning. Other than that, thanks everybody. We'll see everybody. I'll be around, but I won't be able to be kind of like streaming. So thanks everybody. I'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you, Rex.
Yep.
Thanks.